Hello, everyone. This is Charles Walter Buncher coming to you from San Francisco. I'm celebrating living here for 63 years, and I've been in the tech business for 67 years. The year is 2026. I was born in 1940, and I'm now 86 years old and just celebrated this birthday in the Galapagos Islands, of all places. The first thing I want to talk about is 1946. I was in first grade, and Life magazine decided to go around the country and find the perfect one-room school. The school was the Wagner School, and Miss Irma Myers was the teacher. There were 14 people in the school, and in the first grade was Carol Newberger and Marilyn Ball and myself. Life asked my parents if I could be on the cover. They agreed, and I was inside most of the 4-page spread. I received thousands of gifts from around the world, letters, and so on. I'm still in contact with one person after 80 years. I was 6 and he was 7 years old, and he wrote to me from the Netherlands. Can you believe it? Pen pals for 80 years. In 1958, I started my first year of college. It was a private college in Rockford, Illinois, the second biggest city in Illinois. I was taking French, English, history, and art appreciation. One day I saw an ad that Arthur Murray's wanted to have teachers. I thought if I ever moved away from the farm and was in the business world, it would pay to be a dance instructor. You could always dance when you get older at parties and social events and so on. I went down to the studio, I spoozed up the owner, and within a month I was a teacher, a certified dance instructor at the Murray Dance Center. Who would have thought that would have happened to a farm boy? You may wonder how I got into the tech business. Now it's 1959, the summer. I had just completed 1 year of college, and my father decided that I was going to be on the farm the rest of my life, and he bought me a brand new 2-door hardtop Buick. I thought I had it made as far as being able to get out and about, but still there was the farm. Now 2 years before, my stepmother one morning was all dressed up, and I said, "What's going on?" She said, "I'm going to work in Freeport as a secretary to a CEO." She got in her car and off she went for 5 days a week. I was astounded, and I was proud of her. My stepmother was working in town as a secretary. Now that was around 1957. 1959, that summer after college, she came home and said, "I have a job interview for you with a big manufacturing company, Burgess Battery in Freeport." So I went in and interviewed and came back home, and a month went by and nothing was happening. And one afternoon I'm cleaning out the barn, the chicken coop, and the pig pen. Glamorous work. And my stepmother yelled at me to get in the house because I had a phone call. I rushed into the house, and it was the man who had interviewed me a month before, and he said, "I want you to come into work next Monday." And I said, "I sure will, sir." My father came in he was going to have his tea and cookies before milking the cows, and he saw my stepmother and me sitting at the table, all smart and smarmy, and he says, "All right, what's up?" And Rose said, "Chuck's going to work on Monday at a new job, and I'm going to work on Monday at my job." So we both on Monday got in our cars and zipped off down the back roads of Illinois at 60 miles an hour, and we went to our new jobs. Now, my boss told me, "You don't have to come in tomorrow. We're sending you to Chicago." Chicago? So off I went the next day to Chicago, all expenses paid, a fancy hotel with a swimming pool on the top, a high-rise office building with IBM equipment, and a school. And after 3 or 4 days, I knew how to create data on punch cards, how to sort and massage the data, the cards in the sorters, and then to wire boards to program the IBM tabulating machines to reproduce reports. I had it made. After about 2 years, I decided I needed to go to the real big city, which was Rockford, and off I went to Rockford. I had a wonderful job there, a huge manufacturing plant with the latest IBM equipment, and a wonderful apartment, of course, my new car. I had 2 girlfriends, and I had a bunch of friends, and my sister and her husband had a new house there, and my apartment looked over the river in downtown Rockford. I had it made. 23. Maybe I'll become a VP soon. Well, I came home, and there was a letter from the government. I was going to throw it away, and then I opened it, and I saw it stated, "Congratulations, you've been drafted in the Army. Please report to the local reception for the military in downtown Rockford and be processed." So, who would have thought? One day in Rockford, the next day on the bus to the basic training in Fort Knox, Kentucky. What could go wrong? We'll find out. It's 1963. I moved to Rockford after college. I only went 1 year. And I was working at a very large manufacturing company. I had a wonderful apartment. I had a new car. My sister and her husband lived in Rockford, and I was very excited. Life was good. I came home from work, and there was a letter: "You've been drafted." Drafted? How could this be? The next thing, I was on a bus down to Fort Knox, Kentucky, and I was in the 1st platoon. I ended up being a guide on and also working with a lot of the other people in the building. Many of them were 18 and 19 years old from Arkansas and Tennessee, and had never worn a tie even. I thought I was living on a farm and didn't know up from down, but I found out I was pretty sophisticated. One day on the firing range, the first sergeant came by and heard that I was hitting all the targets, and he said, "Don't think about missing them, Buncher." I said, "Yes, sir." And the next thing is, I ended up winning the sharpshooter award, and then I had the highest IQ and in the top 10 in the cross country, and they wanted me to become a second lieutenant, but I decided I wasn't going to. A good thing, because I would have ended up in Vietnam. Instead, they sent me to San Francisco, and where did I go from the city to the Presidio, overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge, Alcatraz, downtown San Francisco, and here I am, working in the tech business at the computer center at the Presidio in the Army. That lasted till 1965, when I was officially let go of the military. Wow, what a life. couple of years later, I joined Fireman's Fund Insurance. They had one of the biggest computer centers west of Chicago. And I think it was 1967 when I started. And by 1969, I was assistant supervisor of swing shift. Here's a picture of all of us standing with the IBM Mod 40. And on the left is my friend Patricia Wood. She and I have been friends for 55 years now. Hard to believe. It's 1999, April, and I decided to take a cruise from the tip of Chile, Punta Arenas, over to Ushuaia, Argentina, the farthest city in the world south. On that trip, I met Vivian, who had a house and her two sons were living in Beverly Hills of all places. She and I became fast friends and drank a lot of champagne. She flew back to Beverly Hills and I flew over to Easter Island for a week. And then I went home. That Christmas, she called me up and said she set up a trip for us to go to Vienna for the Millennium New Year, 1999-2000. We had a wonderful time. The next year she calls me up and she said she has another trip for us to go on to. I said, ooh, where are we going? She said, the 2000-2001, the real Millennium New Year, we're going to go to Morocco for 2 weeks, go all around the entire country. What a deal. Then in 2002, she called me up and she said, I'd like you to do something maybe. I'll pay all your expenses. I said, oh, what? She said, I'm buying an elderly care facility in the valley. And you can get a license to run the senior residence, and then you can fly down 3 or 4 times a year and run it while I go to Belgium to see my family or go on vacations or business trips. So I went ahead, did all the classes and tests, and ended up with a certificate to run a senior residence. I would fly down maybe 4 times a year at least, spend a week or so each time there, and also spend a few extra days when she would come back and either stay in Beverly Hills or we drive around and maybe go to different museums and maybe the Beverly Hills Hotel for lunch, things like that. My brother-in-law, Ken, asked my sister, how does Chuck do this? I don't understand it. Vivian introduced me to her best friend, and she set up trips for us to go to Africa, to go to the Netherlands on a cruise, and Yellowstone, and some other trips. How could I be so lucky? So I ended up being an administrator for elderly care facilities, and it was a wonderful, wonderful situation, and of course all the perks that I ended up having with it.